I was standing in my own living room, watching my daughter measure the walls with a tape measure, when I realized she was planning to redecorate before I was even gone. The realtor standing next to her was nodding and taking notes. Linda had been dead for exactly 3 weeks. "Dad, you really need to stop hovering," Jessica said without looking at me. "Mark is here to help us understand the market value before we list." Us. She said us like I was part of this decision. I had been married to Linda for 35 years. We had bought this craftsman bungalow in Portland back in 1989, when the neighborhood was still affordable. I had spent 3 decades renovating every inch of it. I had replaced the foundation myself. I had rewired the entire 1,923 electrical system. I had restored the original Douglas fir floors that Linda loved so much. Every door frame, every window, every piece of crown molding had my hands on it. "Jessica," I said quietly, "this is my home." She finally turned to look at me. My daughter had her mother's eyes, but none of her warmth. "Dad, Mom wanted me to have the house. We talked about it. Your mother and I owned this house together." "Actually," the realtor interrupted, and I wanted to tell him to shut his mouth. "According to the documentation Jessica showed me, there was a transfer of deed. Technically, the property is now in her name." I felt my chest tighten. Linda had been on so many painkillers those last few months. She could barely remember my name some days. "That's not possible." Jessica pulled out a folder from her designer purse. The same purse that cost more than I used to make in a month as a firefighter. Mom signed power of attorney, Dad. She knew I would take care of things. She knew you couldn't handle the stress. I looked at the document. Linda's signature was there, shaky but present. The date made my stomach turn. March 15th. That was the day she had been hospitalized for the last time. The day she had been barely conscious. "This doesn't seem right," I said. "Dad." Jessica's voice had that edge to it now. The one she used when she was closing a real estate deal and someone was getting in her way. "Mom spent everything on medical bills. Do you have any idea how much debt there is? The house is the only asset. I need to sell it to clear everything. I can get a reverse mortgage. I can. You're 68 years old. You can't afford this place. And honestly, you shouldn't be living alone. Derek and I have been looking at senior communities. Really nice ones. You'd have people your age, activities. I don't want a senior community. I want my home." The realtor cleared his throat. "I'll give you two some privacy." He stepped outside onto the porch I had rebuilt with my own hands. Jessica moved closer to me. For a moment, I thought maybe she would soften. Maybe my daughter was still in there somewhere. "Dad, I'm trying to help you. You're not thinking clearly. Grief does that. In a month, you'll thank me." "A month? I need you to be out by April 15th. That gives you 30 days. Derek and I will help you pack. We'll find you a nice place. Everything's going to be fine." I stood there in my living room, surrounded by Linda's paintings on the walls, her bookshelf in the corner, the window seat where she used to read every Sunday morning, and I realized my daughter was taking it all away. That night, I slept in my friend Tom's garage. Tom had been my captain at the fire station before we both retired. He took one look at me, standing on his doorstep with a duffel bag, and didn't ask questions. He just opened the door. "I don't understand how this happened," I told him over coffee the next morning. My hands were shaking. I hadn't slept. Tom had been there when Linda died. He had been at the funeral. He knew what the last 5 years of caregiving had done to me. "Let me make some calls, Bob. I know a guy who used to handle legal stuff for the department." 3 days later, I was sitting in a windowless office across from Tom's lawyer friend, David Chen. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with wire-rimmed glasses and a way of speaking that was both gentle and precise. "Mr. Hayes, I've reviewed the power of attorney document." He looked uncomfortable. "Can you tell me about March 15th? What was your wife's condition?" "She was in the ICU. She had been unconscious for 2 days. The doctors said she wouldn't wake up again." My voice cracked. "She died on March 19th, 4 days later." David wrote something down. "And your daughter had her sign this document on the 15th? "That's what the date says." "Mr. Hayes, I need to tell you something. If your wife was unconscious, She couldn't have signed this. It's physically impossible. I felt something crack open inside me. Are you saying it's forged? I'm saying it's legally questionable at best. At worst, it's elder abuse and fraud. He paused. Have you noticed any other unusual activity? Financial transactions? Property changes? I thought about it. Jessica has been in the house a lot. She said she was taking care of Linda's things. But now that you mention it, I haven't seen Linda's jewelry, her grandmother's diamond ring, the pearl necklace she wore at our wedding. David made another note. Do you have receipts? Photos? Anything that proves ownership? I have our insurance documents. We had everything appraised 10 years ago. The jewelry alone was worth about $45,000. Mr. Hayes, I need to ask you something important. David leaned forward. Do you want to fight this? I thought about Linda. She had been an elementary school teacher her whole life. Patient, kind, careful with money. She had taught third grade for 33 years. She loved those kids more than anything except me and Jessica. She wouldn't have wanted this. Whatever Jessica had done, it wasn't Linda's wish. But I was tired. So damn tired. What happens if I don't fight? I asked. Your daughter likely gets the house. You lose your home, and she faces no consequences for what she's done. And if I do fight, it will be ugly. It will take time. It will cost money. You probably don't have. And there's no guarantee we win. I looked at my hands. They were scarred from 30 years of running into burning buildings, from pulling people out of collapsed structures, from rebuilding my house piece by piece. These hands had held Linda through chemo, through radiation, through the final terrible months when she couldn't even recognize me. I don't know if I can do this, I said honestly. David nodded. You don't have to decide right now, but there's a 30-day window before the transfer becomes much harder to contest. Think about it. I left his office and drove to Linda's grave. It was a small cemetery in southeast Portland, nothing fancy. We had picked out the plot together 5 years ago when we first got her diagnosis. She had wanted something simple, a flat marker, no fuss. I sat on the grass next to her headstone. Linda, I don't know what to do, I said out loud. Jessica's taking the house. She's taking everything, and I'm so tired of fighting. The wind moved through the trees. A red-tailed hawk circled overhead. Linda had loved birds. She used to sit on our back porch with her field guide, identifying every species. I just want to know if this is what you wanted, I said. Did you really sign that paper? Did you really want her to have everything? A groundskeeper was working nearby, trimming around the headstones. He nodded at me as he passed. I probably looked like every other grieving widower, old man talking to a piece of granite. I went back to Tom's garage and tried to sleep. My phone buzzed. Text message from Jessica. Dad found a great community in Beaverton. Has a pool and everything. Toured it today. They have an opening. Let me know and I'll put down the deposit. I didn't respond. 2 days later, she showed up at Tom's house. Tom answered the door, and I heard them talking. He was being polite, but firm. He needs some space, Jessica. I need to talk to my father. Tom looked back at me. I nodded. He let her in. Jessica looked around Tom's cluttered garage where I had been sleeping on a cot. Her expression was somewhere between pity and impatience. Dad, this is ridiculous. You can't live like this. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're sleeping in a garage. She sat down on the folding chair near my cot. Look, I know this is hard. I know you don't want to leave the house. But Mom was very clear about what she wanted. Was she? When exactly did she tell you this? Before or after you had her sign that paper while she was dying? Jessica's face went hard. I did what I had to do to protect her assets. You were so focused on keeping her comfortable that you weren't thinking about the future. Someone had to. By forging her signature? I did not forge anything. She stood up. If you're going to throw around accusations like that, we have nothing to talk about. I'll have the locks changed next week. Derek will pack your things and put them in storage. You have until April 15th to tell me where you want them delivered. She left. Tom came back into the garage and sat down next to me. What are you going to do, Bob? I don't know, but something was shifting inside me. Maybe it was the way Jessica had said her assets, like Linda, was just a balance sheet. Maybe it was remembering how Linda used to look at our home, at the life we had built together. Or maybe it was just that I was tired of people treating me like I was already gone. Actually, I do know, I said. I'm going to wait. Tom looked confused. Wait for what? I don't know yet. But Linda was smarter than people gave her credit for. If Jessica really did what I think she did, Linda would have known. She would have done something. It sounded crazy even as I said it, but I had been married to that woman for 35 years. She had been a teacher. She dealt with difficult parents, bureaucracy, budget cuts. She was patient, strategic, and when she made a plan, she saw it through. Day 10 arrived. Jessica had indeed changed the locks. I drove by the house and saw moving trucks. She was already clearing things out. Tom called David Chen again, asked if there was anything we could do. Technically, she has documentation showing ownership, David said. Unless you contest it officially, I can't stop her. What if I don't contest it? I asked. David paused. Then she gets away with it, Mr. Hayes. I don't understand. Neither do I. But I'm going to wait. Day 15. I went back to the cemetery. Linda's plot was in a quiet corner under an oak tree. I brought her favorite flowers, yellow roses, and sat down on the grass again. I hope you have a plan, I told her, because I'm running out of time here. My phone rang. It was Derek, Jessica's husband. We had always gotten along well enough. He was a software engineer, quiet, the opposite of Jessica's aggressive energy. He didn't usually call me. Bob, I need to talk to you. His voice sounded strange. Tight. What is it? Can you meet me somewhere? Not the house. Jessica can't know. We met at a coffee shop in Selwood. Derek looked terrible. His eyes were red and he had clearly been drinking, even though it was 2 in the afternoon. I can't do this anymore, he said before I even sat down. I told her this was wrong. I told her from the beginning. Derek, what are you talking about? The power of attorney. The jewelry. All of it. He pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. I took photos. I don't know why. Maybe because I knew someone should document what she was doing. I looked at the screen. Photos of Linda's jewelry spread out on a bed. A receipt from a luxury jewelry buyer. $45,000. The date was March 28th, 2 weeks ago. She sold your wife's jewelry while you were packing your things, Derek said. She spent $12,000 of it at a spa in Napa Valley last week. The rest went into her business account. Why are you telling me this? Because I loved Linda too. She was kind to me when Jessica and I were having problems. She told me that marriage was about being the kind of person you'd want to spend your life with. She said if you can't be that person, you should work on yourself before you work on the relationship. He looked up at me. I haven't been that person lately. I've let Jessica do things I knew were wrong, but I can't anymore. Does Jessica know you're here? No, and she'll leave me if she finds out. But I need to tell you something else. He took a drink of his coffee. His hands were shaking. About 2 months before Linda died, she asked me to drive her somewhere. Jessica was at a showing. You were at physical therapy for your back. Linda made me promise not to tell anyone. My heart started pounding. Where did you take her? To a lawyer's office downtown. Someone named Margaret Foster. Linda was in there for about an hour. When she came out, she made me promise again that I wouldn't tell Jessica. She said it was important. She said Jessica would understand someday. Margaret Foster. I wrote the name down on a napkin. Derek, thank you. I should have told you sooner. I should have stopped her. He stood up to leave. Bob, I'm sorry. For all of it. I called David Chen from the parking lot. I need you to find out about a lawyer named Margaret Foster. Linda visited her 2 months before she died. On it. Bob, if there's a separate estate document. I know. Just find her. Day 20. David called me back. Margaret Foster specializes in elder law and estate planning. I called her office. She can't discuss specific clients because of confidentiality, but she agreed to meet with you. She said if you bring Linda's death certificate and proof of identity, she can confirm whether you're listed in any documents they have on file. I met Margaret Foster in her office the next morning. She was in her 50s, with short gray hair and a direct manner that reminded me of Linda. Mr. Hayes. I'm very sorry for your loss. Linda spoke highly of you. You knew her? We met twice. She came to me concerned about her daughter's behavior. She had been experiencing some memory issues from the medications, and she was worried about what would happen after she passed. Margaret pulled out a file. Linda created a living trust. Are you familiar with how those work? Not really. A living trust is different from a will. It allows you to specify conditions for inheritance, and it takes effect immediately upon death. Linda was very specific about her wishes. She opened the file and showed me a document. Linda's signature was at the bottom, clear and steady. The date was January 10th, 2 months before the power of attorney Jessica claimed to have. What does it say? I asked. Margaret adjusted her glasses. Linda inherited a substantial sum from her uncle's estate about 6 years ago. Do you remember that? I did. Linda's uncle George had worked for a tech company in the 80s and 90s. He had bought stock early and held on to it. When he died, Linda inherited 1,000 shares. We had talked about what to do with it. Linda wanted to keep it for emergencies, for Jessica's future, for our future. The stock is worth approximately $2.3 million now, Margaret said. I felt dizzy. What? Linda didn't want to tell Jessica until after her death. She was worried about how Jessica would react. She wanted the money to go to you, with specific conditions. What conditions? Margaret looked at me carefully. Linda knew what Jessica was capable of. She had seen certain behaviors over the years. She wanted to create a test. A test? The trust specifies that if Jessica attempts to claim your jointly owned home through any legal means within 90 days of Linda's death, and if you do not contest it for a minimum of 30 days, the trust will be activated in your name. Additionally, any evidence of elder abuse, fraud, or financial exploitation during Linda's final illness will result in a mandatory investigation and potential criminal charges. I stared at her. Linda knew. She knew what Jessica would do. She suspected. And she wanted to protect you. But she also wanted to give Jessica a chance to show her character. If Jessica had respected your ownership of the home, if she had waited the 90 days, the trust would have been split between you both. But Linda was very clear. If Jessica took advantage of your grief to steal your home, she would lose everything. When does the trust activate? 31 days after Jessica's first documented attempt to claim the property. According to the paperwork you provided to David Chen, that was March 23rd, which means tomorrow, April 23rd, the trust activates. She paused. Linda also had her home care nurse document several incidents. The nurse wore a body camera, standard practice for liability protection. On March 15th, the camera recorded Jessica pressuring Linda to sign documents while Linda was barely conscious. Linda had specifically asked the nurse to keep recording. Can I see it? Margaret pulled up a video file on her laptop. The image quality wasn't great, but I could see Linda in her hospital bed. She was pale, barely moving. Jessica was standing over her, holding papers. Mom, you need to sign this. For Dad's sake. He can't handle the house alone. You know that. Linda's voice was so weak I could barely hear it. Bob loves that house. He'll understand. Just sign here, Mom. It's for the best. The video showed Jessica guiding Linda's hand. Linda's signature was shaky, illegible, nothing like her real handwriting. I couldn't watch anymore. Margaret closed the laptop. Tomorrow, the trust activates, she said gently. The house will revert to your sole ownership. Jessica will be required to return any assets she's taken, including the jewelry. And the video evidence will be forwarded to the Portland Police Bureau's Elder Abuse Unit. What will happen to her? That depends on what the prosecutors decide. Elder abuse with fraud could mean anywhere from probation to 5 years. Given the dollar amounts involved and the video evidence, she'll likely face some consequences. I should have felt triumphant. This was what I had been waiting for. Linda had protected me, just like I knew she would. But all I felt was tired and sad. Did Linda say anything else? In your meetings? Margaret nodded. She said that she loved Jessica, but that sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their choices. She said she hoped this would teach Jessica something about what really matters. And she said to tell you that she was sorry she couldn't be there to help you rebuild, but she knew you were strong enough to do it yourself. I left Margaret's office and drove to the house. My house. Jessica's car was in the driveway. I could see her through the window, directing movers. She had already painted over the sage green Linda had chosen for the living room. It was now a sterile beige. I didn't go in. I just sat in my truck and watched. Tomorrow, all of this would change. Tomorrow, Jessica would learn what her mother had planned. I went back to Tom's garage one more time. It's almost over, I told him. What happens tomorrow? Justice, I think. Or maybe just consequences. I'm not sure there's a difference anymore. Day 31 arrived. Margaret called me at 9 in the morning. Mr. Hayes, I've filed all the necessary paperwork. The trust is now active. I've also forwarded the documentation to the police. You should receive a call from a Detective Morrison sometime today. At 10:15, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Hayes, this is Detective Sarah Morrison with the Portland Police Bureau. I need to speak with you about your wife's estate and your daughter, Jessica Hayes. I told her everything. About the power of attorney, about the jewelry, about being forced out of my home. She listened carefully, taking notes. We take elder abuse very seriously, Mr. Hayes. Based on the evidence provided by Mrs. Foster, we'll be opening an investigation. We'll need to interview your daughter. You should know that she'll likely be arrested. What should I do? Get yourself a good lawyer. Make sure you have copies of everything. And Mr. Hayes? I'm sorry this happened to you. Your wife was a smart woman to prepare like she did. At 2:30, I got a text from Derek. Police just showed up. Jessica's losing it. What did you do? I didn't respond. At 4, Jessica called me. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to it. Dad, what the hell did you do? The police are saying Mom had a trust? That I committed fraud? This is insane. You need to call them and tell them there's been a mistake. Dad, I'm your daughter. You can't let them do this to me. Call me back. I deleted the voicemail. At 6, Margaret called again. Jessica's lawyer has contacted me. They're offering to settle. She'll return the jewelry money, relinquish all claims to the house, and drop any challenge to the trust in exchange for you not pursuing criminal charges. What do you think I should do? That's not my decision, Mr. Hayes. But I can tell you what Linda told me. She said if Jessica couldn't learn to respect other people's rights and dignity, she needed to face real consequences. She said that's what being a parent means. I thought about it for a long time. About the little girl who used to help me in the workshop, who brought me coffee when I was working late on the house renovations, who had cried at her mother's funeral, or at least I thought she had. Tell them no settlement, I said. Let the prosecutors decide. Are you sure? Linda was sure. That's good enough for me. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings. Jessica was charged with elder abuse and fraud. Derek filed for divorce. The house was returned to my name. I moved back in on May 1st. The first thing I did was repaint the living room, sage green, just like Linda had wanted. I hung her paintings back up. I put her books back on the shelf. I sat in the window seat where she used to read, and I cried for the first time since her funeral. Jessica's trial was set for August. Her lawyer tried every trick to get the charges dropped, but the video evidence was damning. In the end, she pleaded guilty to a reduced charge: probation, restitution, and 200 hours of community service. No jail time, but a permanent record. Derek brought my grandchildren to visit in June. They were 8 and 10, and they didn't really understand why they couldn't see their mother except for supervised visits. I took them to the park and bought them ice cream and tried to explain that sometimes grown-ups make bad choices. Was Grandma really that smart? My granddaughter asked. To plan all that? She was the smartest person I ever knew, I told her. In July, I started renovating the garage. I turned it into a woodworking workshop. Tom helped me set it up. We started a program for neighborhood kids, teaching them basic carpentry. It's what Linda would have wanted. Using our hands to build something good. Jessica sent me a letter in September. It came from her new apartment in Beaverton. She didn't apologize exactly, but she said she understood why I had done what I did. She said she was seeing a therapist. She said she hoped someday we could talk again. I haven't responded yet. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. On October 12th, what would have been Linda's 64th birthday, I went back to her grave. The oak tree had turned bright orange, dropping leaves on her headstone. I cleaned them off and sat down with 2 cups of coffee, the way we used to have breakfast together. "You knew," I said out loud. "You knew exactly what would happen, how Jessica would react, how I would feel. You set the whole thing up like a chess game." The wind moved through the trees. That same red-tailed hawk circled overhead. "I spent 35 years thinking I was the one protecting you," I continued. "The firefighter, the strong one. The one who rebuilt the house and fixed everything that broke. But you were protecting me the whole time. You were teaching me that being strong doesn't mean never asking for help. It means knowing when to trust the people who love you." I poured out a little coffee on the grass, like a toast. "Thank you," I said, "for the house, for the trust, for knowing me well enough to know I wouldn't fight on my own behalf, but I'd wait if you asked me to. Thank you for 35 years of teaching me what really matters." I finished my coffee and stood up to leave. As I walked back to my truck, I thought about dignity, about how Linda had made sure Jessica couldn't take that from me, even if she took everything else, about how the test wasn't really for Jessica at all. It was for both of us. Linda had wanted to know if Jessica would choose money or family, and she had wanted to know if I would trust her judgment, even after she was gone. We both got our answers. I drove home to my craftsman bungalow on Northeast Alberta Street, to the house I had rebuilt with my own hands, to the life Linda and I had made together. It wasn't the same without her. It would never be the same, but it was mine, and that was enough.